So I used to work in the IT industry, and then I transferred into the robotics industry, and now I'm working at the Institution of Sports Science and Clinical Biomechanics at the University of Southern Denmark. And there's this one. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit today about me, then some of the things that puzzles me about games and gamification, and some key concepts that I've been teaching these students. And as it was said before, many people write about gamification. Many people use this as a fix-all or in one interpretation. And I've been looking into different interpretations of the concept and deciding on what makes sense for me. And what I'm going to do today is to show a few concepts to you that made sense to me, and that actually tells you why this is a stupid, silly idea. So, and as I was saying before, I'm supposed to do this in about 15 minutes. I understand we have a little bit extra time, so maybe I'll do 20 or 25 minutes. So you're just going to stop me when I'm...
Yeah, no worry, it'll be 15 minutes. You got 18 minutes. So
18, right, count. Right, sorry. And if anybody got any questions, then please speak up during my presentation. Right, so a little bit about me. I used to work in software development, and sort of like the very large databases, Oracle, and then later on some Microsoft development. Then after 10 years in the software industry, I changed into mediating information about technology, specifically robots. So I was involved in the Robo Days Robot Festival here in Odense. And then I changed into networking and teaching about about technologies that make us physically active. So I'm running this network called Active Living Technologies. It's free to participate, so please do so. There's a blog. I write about some of the things that I find interesting, and we have the occasional network meeting. Something like this, but not quite as big. Right, so what puzzles me? When I was starting to look into gamification, I had this sensation that something was wrong. I mean, I'm old enough to know this one. One of my friends had this Pong. And Pong was, exactly. Pong was the way that technology was able to interpret a very complex game like tennis. So you take something in the real world, and you want the computer to be able to do some sort of representation, and you have to scale it down because the computer is basically very, very stupid. It wants to do zeros and ones. You probably all know this, but this was what I was trying to teach the students at the Department of Sports. And they didn't. So this was the way that it was. We had to take this complex thing in the real world, put it into the virtual world, and you had to dumb it down, make it very simple, make it very understand the very simple rules. But then, within the last couple of years, we've seen examples like this. So we take this concept and we move it back into the real world, and we use computers and media technology to take something really simple and put it into the complex world again. So something's wrong. I mean, we have all this fabulous technology that can do a lot of things, but we try to imitate something which is a poor representation of something which is actually far more interesting. It's still fun though, but so we should be able to do something else. So what puzzles me? Well, I was looking at some of the classics, some of the examples of exagames, one of the words that are used for technology that are supposed to make us physically active. And we have the SmartOS applications. Anybody tried that? Did you enjoy yourself? Yeah. It's a very short while. It was fun. I mean, I went to one of the places with this with my kids, and we bought these very expensive at the point RFID cards and smart cards, and we were supposed to check in, and then the computer tells us what to do. So basically, it's just a computer game where you space out the things that you have to do. Right. Then we have it's probably not easy to see, but this is the Wii Fit. That actually is sustained a little longer in my house. I mean, we played with that for quite a while. Then it told me that I was 67 years old in my Wii Fit age. So I decided to quit playing. So, and this is the Dance Dance Revolution. yes, it is Jim Carrey. I've never seen this clip. I really want to see it. I haven't been able to find it. But seeing Jim Carrey do Dance Dance Revolution, that must be quite interesting. But still, it's one of the examples of a technology where you use gamification and physical activity to create a new experience. We also have this. This is a current trend in Odense, in this city. If you walk around, you'll find different so-called play spots. This is a sort of like an arch where different kind of sounds can be heard when you're standing right in the sweet spots, and there are different games you can play, and you can stand in these areas. So it's a combination of technology and physical space and physical activity, and we want to promote that in Odense, so we do these play spots. It's quite interesting, and the way that they put this into the world and they use this way of talking about it is a good basis for having new ideas tested. So, another thing that puzzled me. I mean, we often use fun as a purpose. Why do we use gamification? Why do we take something and create a game around it? Well, one thing is we try to make it fun to be physically active, because we all agree it's healthy to be more physically active. A lot of people believe that the sedentary lifestyles are the big killers of the future. So why don't we do this? And it's fun, and you can hit the different colored lamps when they light up. But basically, I mean, we had this around for 40 years. It's the same. We just use a different technology. So this is the new building where I work. We just had it built. We started using it 1 year ago. And in front of it, we have two sort of like lumps that are covered in rubber. And I just took this picture one of the first days after they opened the building. And it's just a class from a local school. They've been swimming, and then they just had to take a 10-minute break and run around on these lumps. So if you compare this, I mean, this is fairly expensive. This is really expensive, and this is two lumps, and they're obviously having quite as much fun and enjoying themselves, and I think they actually moved more. So maybe we're barking up the wrong tree sometimes. Maybe we are doing something just because we are not able to imagine a different way of doing it. Right, so, sorry, the other way. I found this site. A lot of people are talking about EXA games, and I found this site where they had an evaluation of many different types of EXA games. It was quite interesting. So they were deciding that a person weighing in at about 150 pounds burns 536 calories per hour. And then they say, this is about the same number of calories people burn during a Zumba fitness class. Right. So why do I buy the Zumba fitness application for Wii to be in my home when I actually could be in this setting, probably with a slightly better view than from my living room? I know a lot of people that go to these classes. I wouldn't do that because I don't really care for Zumba. But if the physical activity-wise, the benefit is the same, then I would prefer to go here because it has an added benefit of a social interaction, and you get to know people. And actually, I think going there, meeting with these people, will in the long run be more motivating than having this thing on your shelf. Right. Another thing that puzzles me is the human-technology interaction. Oh, that's a spelling error, sorry. Especially the Asian approach. I've been traveling a bit in Japan, and I mean, this is a robot that was made for teaching, for making older people do workouts. So it's sort of like use the mirror neurons, and it's doing movements, and you're supposed to mirror the movements, and so it's physical activity. This is a Korean project that is being tested in Aarhus right now, where this combination of a really scary robot head and this robot that are able to move around, and some tablets. The old people, many of them have different types of mental deficiencies as well. These people are supposed to become more physically active by playing with a robot. Funny thing is that during all of the testing period, there will be at least 2 test guides around, and one of the things they found out is that that's a long distance from where we are now until these people will be able to practice with a robot unsupervised. So then why don't you just practice with a person? So I think sometimes we're barking up the wrong trees. We want the robot or the technology to work as a human being. We want it to become somebody you can, a playmate, somebody you can have fun with. And this is a really good example. Kendo. Anybody done any Japanese martial art or martial art at all? Yeah, I know. Right. One of the things that you learn when you do. Oh, you did.
No, I didn't.
Oh, sorry. One of the things you do when you do Kendo is that you try to have the center. So you do some Kendo kata. You stand there with your sword, two persons against each other, and then you do decided movements, a set of movements. One makes an opening, the other one attacks, and then the one that made the opening will go to the side and make some sort of counter movement. The problem is, this is a robot on the left. So it's got a wheelbase, and then it's got robotic arms, and it's got camera, and it's able to initiate the movement and the action, and you can do the Kendo kata. But all the time, the other guy is supposed to adjust to the technology. The technology can, to a very small, limited extent, is able to adjust to him, but not much. So this is one of the things that puzzles me, that whenever we do these things, we expect people to adjust to the technology. So we keep using more and more advanced technology, but at the same time, we sort of close our eyes towards the issues where people are supposed to adjust to the technology instead of the other way around. Right. So based on this, I looked into some of the key concepts of exagames, and one was presented by Sinclair, Hingston, and Masick. It's actually just sort of like an expansion of a concept that you probably all heard about, the flow situation. So they say that a number of studies have been done in the area of exagaming, and they make children more active while playing video games. And not surprisingly, studies show this to be the case. Right, okay, so based on this, how do we make them physically active? How do we encourage them? And one way is to make it a requirement for more popular activities. They actually use the example that, so like the carrot, that if you do a certain amount of physical activity, pedal on the bike, then you get to watch television. Maybe some of you have been to one of these gyms. You can run on the treadmill and you can do Sudokus or watch YouTube videos. I think I would much rather prefer the technology to be somebody that I want to play with instead of somebody that is handing me tokens whenever I do something in the right way. So, but what they do work is they use the attractiveness flow, and you probably all know this idea of flow. That is when your competences and the task that you're supposed to do matches, so that you feel you're in a flow. They introduced some other people, I forgot their names, but they changed this into something called game flow, which is quite interesting. And then they also introduced the idea of effectiveness flow. So what they do is they create this, and they say whenever you do exagames, you have to make sure that they develop within a way where people are in flow, both when it comes to the attractiveness and the effectiveness of the games. It's a little bit simplistic, but I think it's a good thing to have in the back of your head when you design a game or an application or some exagames of some sort, that they need to adjust to the user when it comes to attractiveness and effectiveness both. Another key concept, if we go on this dual flow, there's one example, which is a Danish company called Moonin. They created one way of doing it. So this system gives feedback to the user. This is one way that you discover whether you are in your flow situation. That is when you get feedback from the system. This is a football trainer system. There are 4 different goals. You have sounds that indicate where you're supposed to kick the ball, and you get some statistics back. This is very obviously for when you want to increase your own ability as a football player. It's also a very good base for competition. I'm one of these guys that when somebody starts being competitive, I lose interest. I don't want to compete. I want to solve the puzzles. That's why I knew about Monkey Island. So a different set is the MITI. You know this system? It's a Danish system developed by Helena Elsa's Center. It's a system for training kids, specifically kids with cerebral paresis. And this was done before Kinect. Very simple camera technology. It was able to track a green handband or green band around your forehead. And then you can do different types of tasks. At this time, it was quite advanced, because when you do these tasks, you move objects on the screen, and then a therapist on the other hand, on the other end, through a back-end system, is able to monitor the development of the kids and adjust the level of complexity in the games. So here you use not just technology, but actually a person to evaluate your progress and adjust, give you feedback and adjust the level of difficulty, and thereby helping you to stay in the right flow situation. They have some. I'm not going to go into details about this, but they have some really tremendous examples or results. Another concept I'm going to introduce to you is the kinesthetic empathy interaction. This was actually done by researched by a person at Alexandra Institute in Aarhus, and they were trying to do this system where the kinesthetic empathy interaction is the human-human interaction. So that's what makes you do some things when you interact with other people. And these are handball players. And one of the things you have to do when you play handball is that you have to move according to the way other people move. So you have to react based on the very complex situation of many people's moving, and the situation is changing all the time. And they decided that there's an unexplored potential from not just being inspired by sport, but more importantly from drawing on the underlying gaming characteristics and skills specific to interactive sports. This is very good. This is a progress, because this is not just a computer telling you to do this task or that task. This is trying to make the technology mimic the situation where other people do something and you have to act accordingly, but not in a way where you reflect on the action and decide what to do. You have to be able to reach a level where you can do it unconsciously. So, practice open skills. So this is the types of skills they want to practice. This is a skill where you're able to train yourself in a situation where things are dynamic. Motor skills in an unpredictable and ever-changing environment. And they say that some of the benefits you get from this is you're able to do tactics, anticipation, and deception. So you're able to actually make creations. So what they do here is they're able to push colored lamps from one of these columns to the other one. And they have some really nice, interesting results. But what puzzles me is they claim that you actually learn something about being a better handball player to do this, because through the technology you practice how to move accordingly to the other people. Why don't they just play handball? Why do they use a very expensive technology to create a teaching situation that is almost the same as the real thing? So maybe it's barking up the wrong tree again. So that's another good thing to have in the back of your head when you're doing some kind of EXA game. Do you want it to mimic something in the real world in order to learn abilities to utilize the real world? And if so, also drawing back to the kendo situation, you don't learn to do kendo when you practice with a robot. You learn to do kendo by practicing kendo. Right. So, one other concept, the broken game. As I told you, we usually have a physical world with some rules and a technical world with some rules. And this is one of the one of the examples I really like. It's a guy called Douglas Wilson from ITU. He finished his PhD last year, and he has some really intriguing ideas. So, what he says is, don't make the technology decide the rules. Make people decide the rules. Make the technology facilitate a game play situation and create the broken, otherwise incomplete game system. Anybody ever played catch? Right? Okay, so if you have 10 people, the basic rules of catch is the one who is supposed to catch the other people. And whenever somebody is being caught, he or she has to be it. So if you play this as technology would play it, eventually you would have the slowest person in the middle and everybody else running around in circles. And that would be it. I mean, nothing more would happen. So what we do is we change the rules. We adapt the way we play so that it's still funny. So when we play with kids, we start moving really close to them and try to avoid them. And when we can see that they're starting to become annoyed or tired, we allow them to catch us so that we can be it. He tried to put this into a game. I actually brought this game, so if somebody wants to try it in a break, I brought it so you can have a go. So he says many physical games are impossible. And by impossible, I mean like the catch situation. This game, if you go by the rules by themselves, it's impossible. It won't be fun. So you have to change the rules, you bend them. And that's one of the situations that is really difficult for technology, because technology is not able to bend the rules. It runs by rules. Right, motivation. And this is where he has a key concept. He says motivation by rules. Usually you have achievements like badges, points, score. Are you the winner? Are you not the winner? Then you have anti-achievements and unachievements. And I have the text as well. You can get a copy. You can get the details about it, so you can read it for yourself. But anti-achievements is when you do something specifically not to win the game, just because it's fun. And unachievements is when you're doing something obviously stupid, also to create a new fun situation in the game. And as you can see here, these people are really caught up in the game. They're not caught up in winning, they're caught up in the game. And as he says, ask yourself, what is unfair if unfair is totally okay? Brutally unfair tactics, totally okay now is the name of the game. Bottom. So, small investment, less focus on winning. Now if you play for 1 hour, a board game, risk something, you get really sad when you lose. So you start focusing on winning. But if you have very short games, very small mini games, it doesn't really matter because you don't invest a lot of time, and the fun part and the part of moving around and developing the game and developing the rules in the physical world become more important than the technology. So what he does is to convince his players. The game is supposed to convince his players that any meaning ultimately resides in themselves, not in the system. I think this is a very good thing to have in the back of your head when you're designing a Exa game. So, right. So I'm going to make a small summary. I have a few examples here. Zombies Run. Anybody tried that? Yeah. It's a lot of fun. I have some people I've worked with up at Egmont Højskolen, and they are trying to introduce it to some of their students up there, and they have a lot of fun. The latest thing I found is this one called Whoop, which is made by the Danish Scout Association, and it's a game where you can put out tasks and bombs for other people and create a scenery where you can go around and discover things. Quite interesting. So, choose how to use the following tools. So the kinesthetic empathy interaction, decide if you want to use it and what kind of level you want to use. Decide what type of skill you want to train. Do you want to train an open skill or a closed skill? A closed skill is what you do in most of the edutainment systems that you have today, where you're trying to teach school children how to do math by presenting the tasks on the screen. Training open is like when the handball training, so you train in a more diverse situation. Decide how to obtain dual flow, effectiveness, attractiveness. And choose how to use the following tools. How complete do your game need to be? What type of achievements do you want? What makes sense in this setting? Because sometimes you have to use achievements. If you want people to learn in a closed setting some very closed skills, you have to use achievements. You have to decide whether they chose the right answer or not. But unachievements and anti-achievements can be used with great effect in other systems. And choose the way technical and physical worlds should interact. Where do we have the border between the two worlds? So, once again, if you want to join us, please do so. And so, what did we cover? Me, what puzzles me, some key concepts. And if you want to know more about other examples of physical interactive games, how we try to teach it at my department, and how we try to use this in real life, come talk to me in the breaks, and or get back to me by phone or email or LinkedIn. And yeah,
thank you.
That's it.